Hey there, cats and kittens, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss. And today I'm happy to bring you issue number 107 in the series, Gold. And this is a character that has no alter ego because he is a robot granted artificial intelligence by his creator, the brilliant Dr. Magnus. For those of you who are aware of this hero, chances are you know him from a couple of appearances on The Batman, the Brave, and the Bold, where he appeared alongside his fellow heroes on the team known as the Metal Men, where Gold, of course, serves as their leader. He has also more recently appeared on a couple of DC Nation animated shorts that Cartoon Network features during their DC Nation block of cartoon shows, which still currently features nothing but Teen Titans Go. Yet they are great appearances by Gold and the other Metal Men nonetheless. For those of you unaware of this hero, that of course is why we have the magazine, which will tell you everything you need to know about the leader of the Metal Men, the element known as Gold. And then we'll take a look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. Unfortunately, probably one of my least favorite figures in this collection, even though it is a brilliant character, the only member of the Metal Men in this series. We'll get to all that eventually. Until then, I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy issue number 107 of the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, Gold. First up, the character section. Where we learn that the automaton known as Gold was created alongside his fellow Metal Men by the brilliant young genius known as Dr. William Magnus. Magnus was an up-and-coming brilliant young scientist who was attending the Future Young Inventors Conference to show off his groundbreaking hypo-hyperflux theory. To help explain and demonstrate his theory to the large crowds in attendance, he used his own homemade automatons that he dubbed the Metal Men. They would hold up diagrams to show the audience how his hypo-hyperflux theory would work in practical application. But the scientists in attendance were more interested in his automatons, the Metal Men, than they were in his theory. Magnus eagerly accepted Solomon Kahn's generous offer and poured himself into his work, neglecting his girlfriend Helen. Magnus, finally realizing he had been neglecting Helen, invited her to a nice dinner where he intended to propose, but as he was leaving he realized he had misplaced the gold wedding band that was intended for Helen. He had left it laying on the responsometer when suddenly a voice came out of the device. As this breakthrough was happening at Magnus's lab, the restaurant that Helen was waiting for him at was being attacked by a villain known as Chemo. Magnus wired up the other prototype Metal Men to the responsometer and brought them all to life. Iron became tough and hard-hitting, Platinum became the glamorous femme fatale of the group, Lead was dense but extremely protective, the volatile Mercury, the brittle yet easy to work with Tin, and leading him into battle was the valiant Gold, who sported the Doctor's engagement ring atop the center of his forehead. Together, Doc Magnus and the Metal Men took on villains and creatures that normal conventional weapons couldn't handle, such as a prehistoric manta ray that had been irradiated, and the evil foreign scientist called Von Vroom, who had created an automaton of his own, the Nightmare Menace. The Metal Men became friends and allies to members of the Justice League and Justice Society of America, and even got to meet their hero, the Man of Steel himself, Superman. And no matter how many times the Metal Men seem to be defeated in battle, Dr. Magnus always manages to rebuild them. He even expanded the ranks of the Metal Men by adding to them team member Copper. Gold and the Metal Men have gone on to fight against the evil scientists of the Rogue Nation on Oolong Island. Doc Magnus even had to take on his creations, the Metal Men, when their programming was corrupted by an evil artificial intelligence known as Union. And we discovered that the team continues to work well together and have taken on more villains, including an evil robotic group of female mannequins that called themselves the Click. The team has even gone up against the size-changing villainess, Giganta. Next, we look at a couple of Gold and the Metal Men's classic stories. First up, Metal Men. And this has become the definitive origin story for Gold and all of his companions on the Metal Men. We learn all about the origins of Dr. Magnus, the Responsometer, and his mentor, the time-traveling evil genius T.O. Morrow, before he was an evil time-traveling genius. It's brilliantly illustrated and well-written, and is a good starting point for anyone who is interested in Gold and the other members of the Metal Men. We also have DC Comics presents The Metal Men. This is actually a collection of short stories that ran as backups in Doom Patrol Volume 3, Issues 1 through 7, and it was eventually collected into this single volume. It follows the adventures of the Metal Men, and together the team takes on numerous villains, including Zuma Zuma the Living Idol, and the size-changing villainess Giganta. It's a really well-written tale that blends action and comedy beautifully, is extremely well illustrated, and if you're not familiar with the Metal Men, is yet another really great special to check out. Gold's Friends and Foes section features his creator, the brilliant Dr. Magnus, his teammates on the Metal Men, and their personal hero, the Man of Steel, Superman. Finally, the iconography section looks at some of the other automatons that were created in the DCU. It first looks at the Pseudo-Men, who were created by an autocratic Victorian technologist known as Victor Volcanum, the heroic Automan, who set up shop as a robot for hire by becoming a personal bodyguard, and finally Justice League members Red Tornado and Tomorrow Woman, who overcame their programming from the evil T.O. Morrow to become two of the greatest heroes in the DCU. Here we have Gold, the leader of the Metal Men, and oh boy, this character is just okay. He is very plain, very boring, and it's so unfortunate. I have a feeling he is one of the reasons they didn't do the rest of the Metal Men, because he just turned out to be such a mediocre looking figure, which is so sad, because I dig the Metal Men. I think they're really cool. They're sort of like the Doom Patrol for me. They're more obscure. I'm not that familiar with them, but what little I do know about them, I really like. And Gold is just not really gold to start with. He's this sort of mustard yellow, which is weird. There are portions on him, specifically this chest plate, which you can see is not just, painted, but also sculpted with that triangle, and then the headpiece and the gloves that he has, they could have been a different shade of gold or yellow or something. You can see he has no legs. They get the shape changing across with that puddle that he is forming, and then he turns up and into his more recognizable form with the humanoid head and arms and everything. And the sculpting is nice. No decals. He's pretty clean. He's just very boring. It's so sad. I'll talk a little bit more about what I do like, which isn't much, and what I don't like about the figure here in the next section in just a moment. Gold stands atop the classic DC logo, and the underside of the base features his name and serial number. So you can compare. Here he is next to his hero, Superman. shot with all of the other shape-changing and size-changing heroes that Eaglemoss has released. Gold is the odd man out in this collection, unfortunately. It's not a bad figure, it's just the only member of the Metal Men that was produced, and he's sort of plain, to be totally honest with you. That isn't to say there is some good on this figure. The sculpting is really nicely done. The mold is clean, the paint is clean, although it is just one solid color, unfortunately. And all of the details that are here are nice, it's just there isn't much detail. That's one of my biggest problems. I like the pose, it gets his powers across, which I also really appreciate. You can see he's just a puddle of gold, though, on the base plate. You can't even really see the DC logo at all. He has no legs, he's just, again, sort of this puddle forming up and into a solid humanoid sort of figure, and it looks cool. It's just sort of boring at the same time because there's not much detailing. The paint is one solid flat color. It's this mustard yellowish color. It's not even really got much of a metallic fleck to it, which I feel is a missed opportunity on this figure. The chest is nicely sculpted, great musculature. I like the fact that you can see his logo on the center, and all of that is sculpted. Every rivet on the arms, on the chest, on his head has some sculpting, some three-dimensionality to it. Both hands, though, are just closed fists. The one is flexing, the other one's just by his side. But the musculature, again, and the details are really well done. And the head sculpt, too, is nice. It looks like gold. It looks cocky, it looks heroic. I like the smirk, the smile. His ears have a little bit of detailing, similar to the robots. I like how you can see the skull cap as well, and there's some of the riveting around it. It almost looks like hair, in a sense. His eyes are a sort of brownish gold, so that's nice that they did the detailing there. And the face is very nicely detailed. It looks like gold. He's just, again, very plain. The bad, and really this is the only thing that I can find wrong with the figure aside from the fact that he's boring, and that's the paint. Should have been two different colors of gold. The mustard yellow is fine for the liquidy form of him, the body, the face, all of that, the arms, but the sculpted section on the chest, that triangular section, and the skull cap and the gloves should have been a nice metallic gold similar to Dr. Fate's, whom you can see here. Dr. Fate's helm and his amulet are both that nice metallic gold, and that is the same gold they should have used on gold here for that chest piece and the skull and the gloves. It really would have helped to break the character up a little bit, and it would have made him look more like he does in the comic books. It's just an unfortunate missed opportunity. Finally, the ugly. Nothing on this figure. He is not fragile whatsoever. He is a big, solid hunk of lead. Gold is just an okay figure, unfortunately. I like him more than I should because I'm partial to the Metal Men. I dig those characters, even though, like I said, I'm not super familiar with them. I do like what little I do know, and I feel he's just underrepresented here. Maybe if he had had another Metal Man produced alongside him, whether it was lead as a special edition, or even titanium, give us Tina. That would have been great to have the two of them side by side. This is one of those figures for me that I would have easily traded for any other hero or villain, because he just is an odd man out, unfortunately. He's a nice figure, though. If you're a fan of the Metal Men, you should get him. If not, skip him. Get a character that you really want, you know, you love. And if you're a completionist, save this guy to the bitter end, because there's not much here. He's not all that impressive, unfortunately. I love Gold, but he's just not that impressive. But I hope you have been impressed by my review of Gold, issue number 107 in the collection here. Please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next figure in the series, issue number 108, another heroine. She's been around the DCU for a long time, but she has only recently come into the spotlight with the New 52 and Blackest Night and some of that stuff. Pretty cool, and a relative of Aquaman's. So stay tuned for that quick teaser. As always, I am your host, the Monkey Boy, aka Jay to his friends. Thanks for watching.